This is Hot Mike.
Hot Mike.
On the networks of WDAY.
WDAY.
Here's Dom Izzo. It's that time. An author.
Offensive production, number 1. Number 2, I forgot.
Golfer.
It'd be like going on a 3-person best shot, and we were saying, Kolpack, you got to make a 25-footer every time. You wouldn't putt first. I'd have Tim putt first.
And one heck of a TV personality.
This game is for the Cooper Cup.
It's the Forum's Jeff Kolpack.
4! I should have yelled 2.
Here he is, folks. Jeff Kolpack joins us each and every Monday at 10 o'clock. We have reached the final week of the FCS regular season here, buddy boy. The Bison heading to South Dakota. We'll get to that in just a moment. They clinched, though, a share of the Valley Championship in overwhelming fashion on Saturday against Missouri State. Tim Polasek had a lot of pressure coming in to take this job. He's gone and won 10 football games and got the Bison back to the top of the Valley. It's a heck of a job in year one.
I feel like it's always been in control for him. He's always been in control. And what I mean by that is nothing's really, I think, surprised him. I don't know if we've ever asked a question of him this year yet where his response was, oh, my God, I never thought of that. I just feel like he's just had this plan. He wrote it down in paper in January and is just following these steps along the way. His staples, his 3 pillars, if you will. Got to follow the 3 pillars. And then with personnel and then with getting the running back involved in the offense was I think, priority. Yep. And then 2 backs go over 100 yards this last weekend. And so I just feel like he's always been just a solid leadership, standpoint thing.
Yeah, that compete, tough, and prove. Those are the 3 pillars that he has, and they have lived up to that because the Bison have and the improved part is the one I want to hit on because they have gotten better through the entire season. From
defensively.
Especially there. When you look at how the year began in Boulder, and we're like, oh my gosh, what are they going to do? They know Wisniewski's not going to play back there. All they've done, Enoch Simamana has been just a fine Jeff, where he's just come out of nowhere, and Toby Annetta is another one that just 2 guys that have become pillars, to use your word, of the Bison D.
Enoch surprised me because I didn't think he was big enough. And when he was recruited kind of a safety sort of linebacker, something maybe I thought he was a tweener.
Yep.
And I didn't think he was big enough to play that position in Division I FCS football, and I was wrong. He's explosive.
Yeah.
He's explosive.
He made that play happen. The fumble that the Bison, that Shepard recovered, and before you know it, it's 14-0 on Saturday. Just flying.
He did start. Oscar started. I think maybe part of that was senior day.
Yep.
But then he goes in the next series and then immediately makes that play and forces a turnover. And, man, did that change things. Because Missouri State, I know they have a throwing offense, and Jacob Clark is really good. But still, to be down 14-0 that quick, and then 21-0, then you're like, and 28-0.
28-0, right. What do we make of Mo State? Is it same old from the Bears?
A little better.
Yeah.
A little better than.
Not defensively.
No.
They're not many better
I guess
defensively.
I was thinking offensively.
Yeah.
Man, they got a lot of work to do for FBS. They have, and they know it. I talked to their AD last week. They know they have a lot of work to do. And you look at the difference between NDSU and Missouri State right now. Let's just say both were going FBS.
Okay.
Facility-wise.
Can we say that?
Yeah.
It's going to happen?
Facility-wise, it's not even close.
Nope.
And even you could say what you want about the Fargo Dome. It's still, you take that over Plaster Stadium. And I do think they're going to find a way they have to fix some of the things in the dome. Accessible seating.
It has to happen.
You're going to get sued.
Yeah, they're not compliant right now,
no.
so they have to get that done.
And so, they're going to have to do some things there. Indoor football facility. Missouri State's going to start embarking on a fundraising campaign to get to $50 million for their operations center, which is locker room, training room, office, meeting space. They don't have that.
Good luck. Yeah,
they don't have that. NDSU has that.
Yep.
And $54 million privately raised. Done.
Yep.
Done.
Yep.
Coach's office. Done. 2 locker rooms. They have that.
They do have this bragging right. They're going to go play USC next season. That's pretty good. Got that. But you're right. So they'll get some change out of that. But there's gonna be some lumps, Jeff. Kyle and I were talking about the likes who they're going to play, or teams we've seen. They're going to play Jacksonville State. They're going to play Liberty. They're going to play Coastal. They're going to play Sam Houston, Delaware. Those are teams, obviously, the Bison have seen. Can they be successful? It's going to be awfully intriguing to see what happens next year with them.
Yeah, and I guess we said, is it a sleeping giant? That's what I wrote about last week with Springfield, Missouri. Is that area a sleeping giant? There's really nice areas. I mean, some really nice areas of Arkansas are not far away with the Lakes Country and
Branson's down there.
Yeah, and you talked to the AD again. He said, there is money here, but they haven't tapped it in ever.
No, they have not got into that. That's true. We got a couple emails here. You want to get into this here? This is fine. They want your opinion, man. So you're a great FCS mind. Let's start here with the first one. Guys, Coach Polisic has these guys locked at the start of games. Talk about starting fast. NDSU in the first quarter of conference games have outscored their opponents 84-3.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to last year, was 86-52 in the first quarter. The Bison have scored a touchdown in their first drive in every conference game except South Dakota State. In non-conference, they scored at least a field goal on their first drive. Any guess who had the 3 points? Oh, man.
Who had the 3?
Who had the 3 in the first quarter of the conference season? Oh, man.
That was Colorado, wasn't it?
Conference season.
Oh, conference season.
Yeah. I think it was Murray. It might have been Murray.
It could have been Murray, yeah.
Of all teams. On that. Right?
Didn't get to see the horse go around the track, but they saw a field goal.
Dom, part of your discussion lends itself to one of my pet peeves regarding conference champions. Even in the Missouri Valley, it seems that a true champion can't be determined unless all teams play each other like a round-robin schedule. A conference should be limited to a number of teams that can play each other within the season schedule.
Which is why 9 teams is an ideal number for league.
For the Mountain West.
Yep.
How can the quote-unquote big conferences determine a true champion when they don't play half the teams in their conference? Makes no sense. Yeah,
that's the way it is.
I mean, look at the SEC is going to have 8 teams tied with the same record, and now they don't have divisions anymore. I mean, that's going to be a cluster. You know what?
Big Ten is what?
Same thing there.
Yep.
It's going to be a mess. But
even the Big Sky is that way
now,
more than it should.
It worked out this year because the 2 teams that are at the top played each other on Saturday night. Montana beat UC Davis, but that has been far and few between in the Big Sky where you've had the top 2 actually play one another. Last year, Montana State and Idaho played one, which was good, but it's not happened more often than not.
Missouri State. I mean, that was the first Dakota school they played was NDSU last weekend.
I mean, is it not Murray State, Eric? What is the answer? What is it?
Northern Iowa.
I want to guess that. It just happened. I would have thought it was Murray. All right. Thanks, Eric. On the topic of that with Mo State, now moving ahead, and we'll get to the Bison. They play the Jacks in Springfield. I don't see that game going any different than I saw this one. Do you?
Not with that defense.
No.
Not with South Dakota State's running game. When you have a power running game and you have a defense like Missouri State's, how do you fix that?
You can't.
You can't fix it in
Not
a week.
in 5 days. You ain't fixing it. There's no way on that. Before the game, before the fans got in the seats, we were keeping our eyes on the field because Jim Kramer was out there, strength coach, working with one Cole Wisniewski.
Mm-hmm.
Our intrepid cameras got video of this. From what Kyle Emanuel told me, he's doing patterns out here, which is football movements. You and I were both watching, had the binoculars out to check this out. In your mind, is he watching this? Is he any closer to returning from what you saw?
I don't think he was going full speed. It didn't seem like that to me. So I don't think he's playing this week.
I don't believe so either. I would be really surprised.
I never got the feeling that it was just all guns blazing on this workout.
I would think here.
But maybe it's on purpose, too. Maybe yesterday he went guns blazing. We don't know.
I would think, knowing full well that they have another week off after this coming week, maybe the first playoff game. I'm looking at the quarterfinals. If I was, and I'm no doctor, I love to play one on television, I would say that December the 14th, that quarterfinal game, if the Bison are fortunate enough to advance, that's when you see him back.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's not going to be this. I would be shocked if it was this week.
Maybe. I mean, boy, put a rabbit out of their hat and just.
Again, we don't know the workouts, and maybe he had a really tough one on Friday, and this was more of a warm-down workout. I don't know. Now, I'm not a trainer either.
It's important to know.
I know it's shocking.
Yes, it's important to note neither he or Raja Nelson took part in the senior day celebration.
Right.
So, again, a lot can change, Kolpack. The portal window opens the middle of December, but as we sit here right now, the 2025 Bison football roster will include Raja Nelson and Cole Wisniewski. Holy cow. I mean, that's a quite 1-2 combo right there.
And Cole Payton will be back, too. Don't forget about that. The thing about the portal window, now, with Cole Wisniewski, is he marketable, even though he hasn't hardly played? He'll have maybe not played at that point.
He might have played one game prior to when the portal opens.
Would you?
I would say the answer to your first question is yes. He's definitely marketable just because of what is on tape. He's got that out there.
But would you throw hundreds of thousands of dollars if you're not sure of this guy's health?
That would be a conversation you need to have with the head football coach. Top booster and head football coach. How badly do you need a safety? I got a guy. Oh, okay, who? Cole Wisniewski. He didn't play this year. Okay, well.
Would you draft him if the things were, say it was a draft, okay, the college football draft? Would you take him
and go in the portal?
Yeah.
I would. I would based on what he's done. Yes. If I need somebody on the back end, yes. You look at teams are desperate all the time. You've seen how many times we talked about this. Yes, I think somebody would. That's Green and Gold Collective is going to have its work cut out for him again this offseason. I will say that. The Nelson thing shouldn't go under the radar. That's a big deal, Jeff. He saved his games. I expect we're going to see Raja Nelson playing Saturday at South Dakota.
There's no question. And again, that's one of those things where Tim Paulsek is under control. Had this all planned out several weeks ago in talking to doctors, trainers, and it helps that the wide receiver position has been
really good.
Pretty deep, too.
I'd say before we go to break, for the most part, North Dakota State is about as healthy as they have been. They probably expect Jalen Duffy to come back, which they're going to need. USD's got some dudes on the outside at corner. Jaquise Alexander got banged up with a shoulder. We'll see that. Kubitz left the game early. Sam reported that. I think he could have gone back in had the game been tighter. So I think Kubitz will be all right. But for the most part, they're looking pretty healthy heading into the final game of the year.
Well, yeah, and that's depth because all those title years, they always had injuries here and there. They did, but you always had depth, and you had guys fill in, and then they filled in well enough for the other guys to come back.
Correct.
Like Carson for the playoff title game.
I look at where they're at, especially on the back end when we left the Boulder. Like, okay, what are they going to do?
Yeah,
there?
Remember that? Like the safeties were like wondering where the ball was, and you're going, "Wow, this is like have they ever played this position before?"
I'd say Crumby and Givens have certainly changed things back there. And granted, the injury to Young is a huge one. You can't underestimate that. But Darius Givens, so that is a redshirt sophomore and a redshirt freshman playing safety right now, starting for the Bison at that spot. That's awfully young. You feel good about it, though.
Yeah.
Potential they could be around for a couple of years. But, boy, they're pretty green back there.
The whole defensive backfield, for that matter.
Yeah.
Pretty young.
There's no doubt on that. Let's break. We come back. We'll dive into South Dakota. Bob Nielsen's team has a chance to win the Valley as well. Boy, the last time they played in Vermilion, that was quite the game. We'll discuss that and much more back with Jeff Kolpack right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Hot Mic rolls on a busy Overreaction Monday. Just in, Bison senior kicker Griffin Crosa was named Special Teams Player of the Week in the Missouri Valley Football Conference. He became the all-time leading scorer in Bison history. Pretty neat moment on Saturday when he did that. He certainly knew, and the whole sideline knew as well, Jeff. That was pretty cool.
You know, if you put on a white shirt and a black tie, you could go as Bob Nielsen for Halloween.
I got this out of the way now because I know I can't wear it come Friday or Saturday when we go down to Vermilion. But Croson now is the all-time scoring record at 404. He's third in all of Valley history. Zach Zenner was number one. Would you have guessed that?
No.
If I would have hey, who's the number one scorer in Valley? Yeah, I don't think I would have either. But he's so good. Zenner has 416 points. That's on the
Zenner struggled against NDSU for most of his career.
Croson can break that record. He's at 404. He can break that.
What's Zenner at?
416.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that record is certainly on the line.
Playoffs count.
Yeah. Matthew Cook from Northern Iowa, who just graduated last year, is at 413. He was a dynamite kicker.
You know, Tim said, though, after
Panthers.
the game, he goes, guys, some of these records are going to be hard to beat because of the COVID years.
Yep. Cam Miller is closing in. He's 70-some-odd yards short of being the all-time passing leader Think about that. If I would have told you that Cam Miller would be
Never.
right.
Never.
No one ever thought that. Not just us. I don't know if anybody in the Bison football program would have thought that Cam Miller would be the all-time passing leader in school history.
Yeah, never.
Just a remarkable what he's done with his career. It's been remarkable what South Dakota's done, Jeff. 2 years ago, they lost their final game of the year, 56-17 at home to Northern Iowa. I really thought that Bob Nielsen would be done. David Herbster came into the press conference and said not only is he staying, he got an extension. Now, granted, Herbster left prior to the last football season, that USD has its best year of Division I in 2023, and they've backed it up with another dynamite year this season.
Well, I suppose give David Herbster credit, and I've written about that. I wrote about it last year. He probably saw something in the recruits that a lot of us didn't know about, and they've developed guys. I mean, look at their middle linebacker. I don't have the roster in front of me. This is a guy that came up here and sat for 2-3 years, comes and takes over. It's like third. What's his name? Doesn't matter. Linebacker.
That's an inside joke for people. They don't know that. But yes, they had it. I mean, Tice is still there at running back.
But they develop guys. It's not a portal-heavy team. They didn't go and grab 20 guys last year.
You're talking about number 3? That's Tevin McKelvey. Is that who you're talking about?
No.
Okay.
Leading tackler.
Oh, Gary Bryant is their leading
Gary
tackler.
Bryant III.
Yeah. Yep. He's got 71 tackles on the season. He's been really good. And then they found a quarterback as well. That was the thing that had just beset USD. They couldn't move forward, was they needed a quarterback. They went and got Aiden Bauman. Now, granted, Bauman is still not – he's not going to light it up with his legs. And I think if people watch the game on Saturday in Grand Forks, he's still – and he made a couple of, I thought, bonehead throws in that game that the Fighting Hawks couldn't take advantage of. But they got weapons on the out. I mean, Carter Bell is their all-time leading receiver. And Bison fans remember him. He had 2 touchdowns in the game in Fargo last year.
Well, the game Saturday is all about if the Bison can get pressure on Bauman.
And they did that big time in the playoff game.
Yes, because he's not a great runner. He's not a great scrambler. And he's a big dude and likes to hang in there in the pocket.
Yep.
And if they can collapse that, then it's a whole different game.
That was the striking to me, Jeff, of how the regular season game went last year in Fargo and the playoff game. And I think for Bison fans, they're going to have a hard time getting the playoff game out of their mind of how dominant it was. That was 28-3 before anybody sat down.
Yeah, and you talk about the regular season game, and that was one where the Bison didn't show up.
No.
And I don't think we've seen those moments this year.
Not this season, no. I would completely agree with that. I think SIU had moments, not when it didn't show up and it wasn't clicking, but to that extent.
It was still 24-3, but
to that extent.
They should have been more.
Right, but to your extent of what you're talking about, no, that has not happened, and I don't believe so. I mean, Cam Miller already said it after the game on Saturday that, hey, everything's on the line. We're going on the road. Couldn't ask for anything more. I think number 7's already locked in long before this game even happens.
Yeah, talk about the SIU game. You got to remember, Miller got hurt that game.
Yep.
And I just think, Tim, they just dumbed it down, said, let's just run the ball, get out of here, and move on.
I have to think, and we've seen this in the trips we've been down there, Bison fans are going to come. There'll be, I know USD's going to try and sell that place out. There's going to be a lot of Bison fans
What was the
there.
ticket gate again?
Oh,
somebody found out.
Password. That didn't work out too well.
Yeah.
I have a feeling there'll be quite a few Bison fans in the stands on Saturday. And NDSU knows full well they're playing everything, Jeff. We just talked about it with Sam before you came on. Everything's on the line. Number 1 seed, home field advantage, and the outright championship if they win.
It's a perfect time for a fan if you're in the Fargo area. It's 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
So you get up at 7 or 6, you make the drive. It's a 1 o'clock game. You're not getting back at midnight or late. It's the perfect time to make a road trip.
Game gets done at 4. You're probably back home by 9 o'clock. You stop and get something
Didn't
to eat.
it feel like last Saturday's game just got over at 9 o'clock?
I looked at my watch when we got to halftime. It was 4:30. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Yes. Well, we had everything happen in that game. We had 3 in the first half. We had 3 reviews. We had one of the officials get injured, and thankfully she's okay. We had a couple of players get hurt. I mean, you had everything to lengthen that game out is what happened in the first half on Saturday against Missouri State.
Then it was a blowout. How are you in blowout games, sir?
All right. You got to have your notes prepared, man.
You were ready.
Were
you ready for it?
You got to have all
Were
your
you
notes
mentally
ready.
prepared?
I was good. I'll let the viewers tell me. Normally, they don't hide their opinions. I can tell you that. if there's something they don't like that I say. I can tell you.
I don't hide my opinion to you either. Why should anybody?
That's very accurate on that. By the South Dakota rushing attack, Charles Pierre Jr., Travis Tice. This is like the true kind of thunder and lightning that South Dakota brings. We've seen Tice for the last 4 years. Pierre's a different cat, though. He's pretty
Pierre,
good.
he's the only back in the Valley that averages over 100 yards.
15 touchdowns this year.
He's really good.
Yeah.
He's a sophomore, too.
Yeah.
And he's really good. And Tice has a different look, more of the bulldog kind of guy.
And he has not had, I would say, a big game against the Bison. He just hasn't. He hasn't had that one to just go, holy cow. And I'll go back 2 years ago. You remember the Bison went to Vermilion after the Arizona game and were flat that first half, and they came out. And
that was one of the worst.
Remember that?
I remember at half I tweeted out.
Yeah.
That was one of the worst halves I've ever seen NDSU play.
Yep. And then they came back, and they ended up winning. I think it was 34-17 or something like that. But that was not they can't have any part of that. None of that. This game will turn the other way. Before we go, obviously we're going to have our bracketology show coming up on Saturday night, our 13th annual bracketology show. Looking forward to that.
And we think that the picks will be pretty cut and dried at
what
that
Sam
point.
and I were talking about, and I think there can't be much complaining, I think, for the teams. If you're, and we've said this over the last couple of years, if your team 25, 26, 27 win more games, and I think this year, especially in a 12-game season, you've had one more opportunity to do it. I don't think you have much to complain about this year. What I will throw at you, if the Bison lose, where would you put them? How far would you drop NDSU if they lose the game in terms of seeds?
4.
See, I think the lowest they can be is 3. They can't be below the Jackrabbits because they beat SDSU, right? The head-to-head has to mean
they have the
something.
same record. You're right.
Right?
Yeah. So
and SDSU played a Division II opponent. I also think that has to come into.
see, you're such a great bracketology mind. I'm just not even in the same zip code as you.
But you would when you penalize, I would penalize both South Dakota and South Dakota State for not playing a full Division I schedule.
Well,
I would.
It's written down.
Correct.
It is written down that it's part of the criteria.
It's one less data point is what the committee would tell you that they can't take into consideration. And then South Dakota had its game with Portland State wiped off the schedule, then, which is out of their hands. And I know they were trying to get that as a forfeit.
Who do you put 2?
If the Bison lose, I would have Montana State 1.
Yep.
I would have South Dakota 2, begrudgingly, and I have the Bison 3 and the Jacks 4. That's what I would do. I don't know if that'll be what the committee does because Davis will probably have to be in there as well. And because
Davis, logical. What you're saying is logical.
So, how often does that happen? Because Davis consider and tell you we have a FBS loss to Cal and we lost by 2 to the number 1 team. How much are you going to hurt us there?
I think if you're NDSU, you just want to get on the opposite side of the bracket of Montana State.
Correct. Yep. I agree. Which, one way or the other, if they win, or in my scenario, if they lose, they're certainly going to have that. The only caveat would be maybe another trip to Vermilion or Brookings if they lose, which that would be, if it's Brookings in December, that would be something different than what we saw last December down in Vermilion.
Could be a little chilly.
A little bit, if that's the case. What do you expect on Saturday for this? I'm not talking prediction stuff, just of this football game from what you've seen from the Bison.
I'm expecting a packed house for one thing.
Yep.
And it all goes down to the Bison pass rush. If they put the heat on Bauman, I think it's going to be a pretty good day for the visitors.
Eli Mostar was already talking about that in the post-game press conference that he couldn't wait to
Toby
get after.
Nenny's really come on.
Yep.
He's been really good.
That's again. I know we got to go, but the back end or the back end of the Bison defense surprised me. But I'd say the interior of the Bison defensive line, I did not see that happen.
Logan Larson's been heard from lately. Dutenheffer's a veteran guy.
I'd say what Heisman's done.
Keenan Wilson's been good.
Eli had to have an All-American year. We talked about that in August. He has.
Yep.
I think he'll get Garner for All Valley. He should. And then what Heisman has done, if they had a comeback or breakthrough athlete of the year, Cody Heisman has got my vote 10 times out of 10. He's been amazing this year up front. And he's going to have a big challenge against a USD offensive line that's pretty good. But that's
I don't know. I think Trent Fraley's been really good at center.
Fraley's been really good, too.
I think he's a breakthrough player. They have several breakthrough players.
That's why they're 10-1 right now.
All right.
Great stuff, bud. We'll do the Bison video blog coming up. And again, we've got our bracketology show Saturday night, Inforum.com. Everyone's expecting a great grand entry. You've had some dynamite ones. From book sellings to...
the things are rolling right now.
You were a janitor one year. That was pretty good.
Building superintendent.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
the
did,
meteorologist.
you did the weather.
I'm no Lydia
Can't wait.
Bloom,
No,
by the
you're
way.
definitely no Lydia Bloom. There's no doubt on that. Back on Hot Mic right after this.